Well, hello there, Retro PC Durham. It's Chris here, and here's another one of these ThinkCentre small form factor PCs. This is a machine type 6071 that would have fit under the ThinkCentre M57 lineup, of which there's, multiple machine types all attached to the M57 and then the M57P. This particular one is the 6071. So we'll take a look and see what we've got inside for these machines. Popping these open as well. Take a look at the outside first. So pretty cool design, I guess. On the front here, we've got a DVD-ROM/CD burner, and you'll notice it's a small design here. This is actually the laptop form factor of the media device for optical drives, which is a great move for these small form factor PCs to free up a little bit of space inside the machine, not using a full-size optical drive, shrinking it down a little bit. We've got a pair of USB ports and then our audio ports in the front, some indicator lights and our on-off button. And then if we switch around, oh, this guy's pretty heavy for the size. Still a little bit of the old IBM design in this one. It's got quite a bit of heft to it. So we take around the back here, we've got our plug-in for our power supply. This is your expansion slot here. We'll take a look at when we open up what you can actually fit in there. And that is a full size, not a half height, low profile expansion slot. So kind of important sometimes for expansion. Gigabit Ethernet, we've got some more USB ports here, right? This port here is an eSATA, external SATA port. Then we've got our audio ports on the rear, a serial parallel, and a VGA connection. And then you'll see you got this little clip here for being able to slide out the USB or the system board when you unscrew it from the inside if you were doing full servicing on the machine. Let's pop it open and take a look inside. Very easy to do. There's two buttons on either side here, and then this one on the other side here, and all you got to do is just push them in, and this front lid opens up. There's some instructions on the panel here telling you how to move everything out, but it's pretty easy. This whole front section of the chassis slides forward, and then you've basically got access to get into all of the components of the machine. You've got a hard drive here that's easy to slide out, and then your media drive, your optical drive, if you wanted to remove it, you just have to pull a little switch and you can actually remove that as well. So very quick to be able to service these things. We've got a couple things going on here. A fan that's on the front end of the system pushes through the heatsink, and then there's another fan on the back of the heatsink and another fan at the back of the unit here. So there's great airflow pushing through this system. You can actually support anything from like a Celeron or Pentium processor in the LGA 775 form factor all the way up to a Core 2 quad processor. So you could put one of those high-end Core 2 quad procs into this machine. However, there's a couple limitations that we'll get to as well. First off, you've only got 2 DIMM slots, right? So DDR2 memory on board on like the Lenovo support website, it says the maximum supported memory here is 2 gig DIMMs, which means 4 gig total memory. I believe you are capable of putting 4 gig memory DIMMs in here though, so you could get 8 gig of RAM in this machine. But then we run into our second problem, and that is if I swing this around and we take a look at the other side, and you see my second problem that I have is that. That's my full-size expansion slot that I have available in this system. However, it's a standard PCI expansion slot, not PCIe, not AGP, PCI. That extremely limits the amount of options I have available to me for adding in a graphics adapter to improve the graphics from the onboard, shared memory graphics that the system has. And that means that when it comes to using a machine like this, possibly upgrading it as a low cost, low end, low profile, low spec gaming machine, you're probably not going to get very far with it as a result of this single limitation. You're going to want to look for one of the models that may be the next generation up from these. I believe there was one series of machines after I think it might have been the 58s or the 59s, that by that time they moved away from PCI, and this would have become a PCIe slot, and it would have been on the board and a low profile. So you still would have to look at something like a 1030 or maybe even a 1630 as far as I think 1630 or 1650. There's a low profile version of that to go into there to be able to work off of, and it has to run off of the 75 watts that a PCIe slot can provide, because this power supply isn't going to give you much more juice than what it needs to be able to run everything else. So this machine's still pretty cool the way it is. Neat design, very easy to get into and service. It's a little tight closing everything back up again, the way the cables are run from the front to the back. So you do kind of have to like cram, slight cramming. There's a slight cramming required. But it all fits together nicely and makes a good little package. So we're going to switch things around, get it powered up, and I'll give you the quick crab rave test to see how this thing goes. Make sure I got this thing closed up properly. There we go. That's closed up properly. So we're going to get this plugged in and check it out. Okay, we're all switched around. Time to hit the old power button. Now, because this thing's got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fans in total inside of it, right? Between the between the power supply fan, the front fan, is it 4? Front fan, yeah, and then the fan on the other side of the heatsink, and then the fan on the back, and then the fan, so the 4 fans. All those 4 fans, because they're smaller fans, right? When it powers up, it can make some noise. Reminds me actually a little bit of a rack-mounted server, when you've got those like little tiny 40mm fans all going at once starting up. It sounds like it's trying to take off. Now this thing, as I mentioned, is pretty heavy, so you wouldn't have to worry so much about it taking off your desk. But yeah, that being said, pretty interesting. Boot up isn't too terrible, right? This thing's got a dual core, obviously dual core. It's a Core 2 Duo processor. 4 gig of RAM, but it is a mechanical hard drive, right? There's a WD 250 gig, 5400 RPM hard drive in here, but it's pretty decently sized. Performance seems to be okay on this system. You'd be surprised. You may be surprised. Windows 10 actually can run pretty well with lower spec machines, as long as the processor is capable of handling things. I'm just gotta plug in the Ethernet cable here. Forgot to do that when I was plugging in the other parts, so it'll take a second there to resolve with the DHCP connection here, and then we'll be getting hooked up to the internet. While we're waiting for that, we can run hardware info, and I can give you a quick look at the specs on this guy. Run. Alright, so if you can see what's going on there, our Intel Core 2 Duo E8200 running at 2.6 gigahertz. We've got our WD 250 gig hard drive, all green. We have our 4 gig of DDR2 memory, and we've got our Intel Q35 integrated graphics on this system, which is obviously not all that special. And we'll check and see here if I'm actually connected. Okay, so let's pop open our browser here, and we will go and check out our streaming quality on this system as well. First, we need our Grammarly ad. This video is not sponsored by Grammarly, so we're going to move on. And I am going to up this to, actually pause this. We'll get our stats for nerds. We will switch this to 1080p and go full screen. When I did my testing originally on this one, I had it plugged into the monitor that it's going to get donated with, which was a 4:3 ratio, 1280 by 1024 screen, and that was rendering at, I think 720p was the correct resolution to fit into that window in this letterbox. However, my bench screen here is a 1920 by 1200, so it's going to go to 1080, obviously. I'm just going to wait here for the buffer to come all the way through here. Usually you get a whole bunch of drop frames when you first start watching something, and that's usually coming from the buffer. So now that that's complete, I'm going to hit play, and we should see this go pretty smooth. However, you know, I know the processor can probably handle this, but you know, it might be having a little bit of trouble here, and I can see a little bit of frame skipping. I mean, it's only said that it's dropped like 17 frames, but I can clearly see there's a hitching going on, a stuttering, so the frame times can't be all that good. We're going to drop down to 720p. And that should be a lot clearer. Yeah, it's still a little bit, but I think this is a better better resolution. And it may have something to do with trying to render it on the larger screen is a bit of a challenge as well, but I think 720p is definitely the limit you're going to want to end at when it comes to running this machine. So yeah, I think that's all in all pretty good. It's going to do the job it needs to do, and that's what's important. So we got another little machine up and ready to go. This ThinkCentre M57 machine type 6071. Hope you enjoyed taking a look at this little machine and are enjoying all the videos. If you haven't watched the videos, please, you know, go back and watch the rest. I try to put one out every week. So thanks for watching. Hope you're staying safe and healthy, and we'll catch you in the next one.